Hello everybody, it's Ashley. Today I'm going to talk about Harry Potter. Basically, I got my breakfast with me. I'm in the middle. Anyway, basically I'm at school right now, but my roommate is still asleep. It is 12:30 in the afternoon, and I need to talk about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So, today I'm going to be doing this. If it gets cut off, fine, whatever. But basically today I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do my review for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is going to be my first review on this channel, which is very exciting. I do have another booktube channel, but I thought that since this one is kind of more Harry Potter centric and all that stuff, I would do the reviews on this channel. So we're just going to get right into it. So we're going to talk first about characters, then about writing, and then about plot. So 3 things, and then I'll also have like a little section at the end for just miscellaneous stuff that I wanted to talk about. So first point is characters, and the first character I'm going to talk about is, actually, we're going to start with Ron Weasley, who isn't people's favorite character, you know, out of the Golden Trio, so we're just going to talk about him first. So Ron is just kind of like, in this book, he tends to be like the best friend that everyone really wants. Like, he is super supportive. He, if he likes you, he's never gonna just like give up on you, which I think is really cool. He's very loyal, and that is probably the most admirable thing an 11-year-old kid could be, is loyal to his best friend. Especially while Harry is going through all of the stuff that he's going through. You know, like, he's this type of character that you look at and you're like, okay, so no matter what happens, he's always going to be there for Harry, and then, you know, later on in the book, Hermione. He, like, despite being a really horrible person to Hermione in the beginning, he is an extremely nice character. You know, for example, after Harry realizes that Hermione is in trouble, like, you know, with the troll part, when the troll gets into the castle, Ron, despite knowing that he'll get in a lot of trouble because his brother's a prefect, which we'll get into later, seriously, he goes along with Harry to save this girl that he has stated so many times before that he does not like. Like, he's like, she's horrible, she's the worst, she's evil. I mean, like, not evil, but evil, you know. And I think that's, like, really, really cool, especially, again, as an 11-year-old. Like, when you're 11, you don't really want to hang out with girls. You don't want to hang out with people that you look at and you're like, ugh, they're gross. So I think it's really cool that he was willing to do that, was willing to go out of his way to save this girl that he doesn't like at all. Like, he thinks she's a snobby little brat, but he also realizes that it was kind of his fault that she was gone. And I think that's really cool. He also earned the right to be in Gryffindor. Like, it's considered the house of the brave, or, like, the house of the good guys, as Ron points out in A Harry Potter Senior Year. It's also very important to remember that bravery isn't just about, like, standing up to people in the face of danger. It's also about being selfless, and at the end, with, like, the last, when they're trying to get to the stone before Snape does, there's a wizard chess game, and he knows that the only way for them to go forward is if he sacrifices himself. And now, well, in the movie, it's kind of like, well, why couldn't he have just, like, hopped off the horse before? In this, he's not on a horse, he's literally just standing there, so he has to get hit, and he realizes that, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna do it, you guys need to go. And I think that is extremely noble, and it kind of encapsulates, like, what Gryffindor is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the house of the brave, the selfless, the noble. Like, that's Gryffindor. And I think it's really cool that he did end up earning the right to be a Gryffindor. And at the end, you know, Dumbledore kind of points out, like, he's like, you know, Ron did this thing. He played the best game of wizard chess that's ever been played at Hogwarts. Anyway, I think that was kind of an understatement for him to, like, say that, just like, best game of wizard chess that's ever been played. And I think that it was also, like, so much more than that. I think Ron deserves a lot more credit in the entire series. Like, he sacrificed himself for this kid that he's known for, like, not even a year, because he knew that that's what needed to be done in order to save the entire school and probably the entire world. And I think that that's insanely brave and really awesome of him to do that. He doesn't have as many character flaws in this first book as he begins to develop, because obviously the story's still developing, so J.K. Rowling is still developing all of the characters. But I think the main one that I'm going to talk about, and I will talk about it with Harry as well, is the fact that he immediately jumps to conclusions and then just, like, holds on to them. Like, he thinks that they are correct. With the Snape thing, nobody could change his mind. He was like, not even, like, Hagrid was like, no, it's not Snape. Snape is a good person. No, he didn't care. Both him and Harry were just like, no, that's not true. He's obviously evil because he's been doing all of this stuff all year. And they can't consider any other factors into, whether or not Snape could potentially be a good guy, could be trying to help Harry, could be trying to save the stone as well, which is why he got bit by Fluffy. Like, they don't understand that. Ron, primarily, does not understand that. And he holds on to that throughout the entire series. He just thinks something and then holds on to it, and if nobody can tell him any different. So that's basically all I have to say about Ron. Let's move on to Hermione. She is the most annoying character in this entire first book, but I love her so much. I think it's really important to her growth as a character that she's, like, super annoying in this book. And also the way she's seen in, like, the school itself. People are really racist in Hogwarts, like, toward Muggleborns and, like, half-bloods, all of that stuff. Well, she's definitely a know-it-all in this first book. She has to be a know-it-all because the way she's seen in Hogwarts by pretty much everyone is that she's inferior to everyone else. She has so much stacked against her in Hogwarts because she's a Muggleborn and because she knows that going in to Hogwarts, she has an inkling, obviously. So she tries to learn all that she can before she goes to Hogwarts, and then she can answer every single question, and she can prove to everyone else that she is actually a good wizard and a good student and all of that stuff. So I think that's really cool that she did that. Like, it's pointed out mostly by Malfoy, and not in this book as much, but in the other books, that he thinks that she's worthless and that she can't do anything. I can't remember where I was in Hermione. I'm just gonna move on. I also really enjoy, like, the potions part of finding the Sorcerer's Stone at the end, where she proves that, like, this wasn't all just for her. It was because, she knew that she would need it later on, and I think that's really, really interesting, in terms of, what's going on. I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say about Hermione. I love her as a character, and I can't wait for more character development from her. Okay, so moving on to Harry Potter. He's the main example of being told something at a young age and then just believing it for the rest of his life. And for example, Hagrid informs him that Slytherins aren't good, and I think that's super interesting because there are some good Slytherins, and, they're just not talked about as much as they should be, and I think that's really upsetting and kind of sad. Okay, so I've had to move into the bathroom because there are too many people coming in and out. I'm fine. It's fine. So, Harry Potter, right? He's the example of being told something at a young age and believing it for the rest of his life, or at least hanging on tight until all of the evidence is stacked completely against him. For example, when he first meets Hagrid, Hagrid informs him that there ain't a wizard or witch that hasn't gone bad, that hasn't gone to Slytherin. I don't know what exactly he says. I don't have the quote in front of me. Anyway, he never tries to, like, form a different opinion. Like, you know, there are obviously Slytherins that are good. J.K. Rowling just decides not to point them out or to talk about them because she's J.K. Rowling, and that's what she does. And then Ron, I think, someone, probably Ron, makes the case that Snape must be completely evil, and Harry just goes along with it. Doesn't try to gather evidence. Yeah, his scar hurts sometimes when he sees Snape, but who is Snape always next to when his scar hurts? Probably Professor Quirrell. Yeah. So, you know, that's just like, Harry's just, he's that kid that's just like, well, someone told me this once, and so I believe it. I'm not going to do any further research. And that stinks. That's a huge character flaw, because if you're told something, you don't believe it right away. You're supposed to gather evidence. And I'm aware that he's 11, like both him and Ron are 11 years old, but that doesn't mean they can't be smarter about it. Like, I don't know, it bothers me. So, yeah, that's one thing for Harry. He's also, like, the perfect narrator, because he's completely useless. Like, I love Harry, but he doesn't know anything. And yes, the narrator is, like, this omniscient being that's just, like, you know, watching Harry. But, and he may know more than he says he knows, or he may know more than he says, like, in the actual text. But he's just telling you what Harry knows. And I think that's really, really cool and really interesting, because when I read it as a kid, I believed that Snape was evil because that's what Harry told me to believe. Like, Harry had all of this evidence, and he was like, yep, this is true, this is the thing, it's right. And it wasn't. And, like, I don't know, I just think that's really cool. It lends itself, like, perfectly to the book, because we have almost no clue what is happening after, like, and when Harry's talking. Like, we're just like, okay, I don't know anything else, so sure, I'm gonna believe Harry, and I think that's really, really cool. I also really love, like, Harry's cluelessness. I think it's really funny. He has absolutely no idea what he's doing at all, ever, because he's never been around magic, and I think that's awesome. Like, I think that the way J.K. Rowling wrote Harry in this first book is really, really interesting and really, really cool. He always has to, like, ask for help, or he doesn't ask for help and then screws up and then has to ask for help, and I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool the way that J.K. Rowling wrote this character. I think that J.K. Rowling did a great job with this character, and yeah, that's, you know, he doesn't know how he's supposed to react in certain situations, and I feel like if I was that age, you know, like, remembering how I was in that age, I would probably reacted the way he did if he had been told, or, like, if I had been told, like, hey, you're a wizard. Because now his life is so, like, suddenly full of, like, magic and whimsy and things beyond his imagination that it makes, like, me and, you know, maybe you as a reader, like, kind of sad that he has to go home at, like, the end of the book, but also hopeful for the next year when he'll get to, like, go back to Hogwarts and learn even more. And I don't know, I just think it's really, really cool. Okay, so moving on. We're going to talk about writing now. For me, reading this book, I was kind of like, okay, so this is a little juvenile. Because it was. Like, obviously, this is a children's book, and I forgot that going into it because I just, you know, I've watched the movies, I remember the later books more than I remember the first few books. So, you know, reading it, I was kind of like, okay, wow, this is extremely juvenile. And I don't know, it really, really surprised me when I started rereading it, because, like, that's not how I remembered it, and that's how it was all of a sudden. And for some things, I feel like the pacing was weird. Maybe this is more of a plot thing, but I just feel like the pacing was really off, especially getting into the end, because, you know, you have all of this lead up, these, like, 20-something chapters of lead up to the ending, and then all of a sudden the ending comes and it's 2 chapters long, and it's really, like, it's interesting, but it's also just kind of like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and now Harry's in the hospital. Like, I don't know, it bothered me a little bit, and I wish it hadn't. I wish that it could have been, different than that. But obviously I thought that J.K. Rowling's writing was good. Like, I mean, she's a talented writer. I may not agree with some of the stuff that she does, but I do think that she is a very talented writer and a very talented person for being able to come up with this entire world where anything is possible. And it's obviously it's my fault for remembering the books wrong and remembering that like they were a lot more adult, because they're not. They're children's books in the beginning, at least. Like the first 3, I guess, are children's books. So, you know, that's my fault. And then we're just gonna move quickly into plot. The plot is great. I'm gonna wait and look at plot holes and like when I'm done with all of the books again, because I don't want it to like ruin the rest of the books for me. But I just really love how everything is just the entire time. The main plot is the stone, but all the side plots are really, really good. Like, Quidditch is complete bullshit, but I really like that side plot, because it's just so cute. Like, people are constantly telling him, like, your dad, you're just like your dad. It's really interesting. It's really cool, and I think that's awesome. You know, he reminds McGooks and Dumbles all of, like, James, and that's probably the highest compliment for him, because he never knew his dad, so he thinks that his dad was this great person, and I mean, I think that James is a great person, too. He did some questionable things when he was younger, but he was still ultimately a good person. So it's, like, a huge compliment, and then, you know, he just kind of needs to hear that sometimes, because, you know, who doesn't need to hear that you're just, like, this guy who you hold at, like, the highest esteem for? Like, I don't know. I just think that's really cool. And then, obviously, the Mirror of Erised is also a side plot, and I think that that is really, really awesome. I love the Mirror of Erised. I think that it is an amazing thing that J.K. Rowling has put in there, and I wish that it had come into play a little bit more. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. It's a children's book. I don't need to talk any more about the plot. Yeah, I guess that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, let me know, I guess. And then I'll be posting part 2 later this week, because I'm the worst, apparently. This is such a mess. It's fine. It's my first book review on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys later this week with a new video. I love you all, and hopefully I'll have another cosplay video up soon. Who knows? Okay, bye! I don't know if anyone's gonna come down here. I really hope not.